Hello, everyone. Welcome on to Branded. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand. And today we're going behind the scenes with one of my beautiful clients, One Breath Unity. And we're going to be talking with two of the founders and world-class guides that are bringing this event to life. So Candace Tranter and Brian Coons, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Really awesome. And also you've been joining us along the way. So that's pretty nice just to have you on board too.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sarah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about our work together, what we've been doing behind the scenes in order to create this really incredible event that you guys are going to hear all about. And then, of course, we're going to dive into the heart of our topic, which is how one breath can truly transform your life, right? So if between the two of you guys, let's kick it off. Tell me a little bit about the different modalities that are going to be used at this event, because I know each of you have your own perspective and you bring something unique.
I think because Brian, you starting off the event, you want to go ahead and start with how you're going to show up on the day. Start us off. That sounds good.
Sure, yeah. It's really interesting when, there's an opportunity to be with a large group of people and to take them through a journey like this. And I mean, you both know, and some of the listeners probably know what that experience feels like to really do some deep work in a session like this. But when you look at a group like that, it could be anybody from the very first time showing up to something like this to somebody who's practicing all the time. So my approach is usually I like to at first frame up what's possible for people, and so just not to talk too long, but just long enough to say, okay, these are all the possibilities with this work that we're about to do in this journey we're about to embark on. And because some people do like a little bit of the science to understand what's happening. There's people, crowds where I go to, they don't want any woo woo at all, and I like the woo woo, but the science is there for what we're doing. And so my background is really based deeply in mindfulness. So basically, just simple little things like the importance of the present moment, and with the amount of mental health issues and the suffering that's happening right now. It's such a powerful solution. So it's sort of based in mindfulness. And then from there, after we show them a little bit more what's possible, I like to get right into the experiential piece. And, deep breath work will be at the core of this event. And regardless of, again, the experience or what people have done in the past, it is such a powerful modality where people can really literally feel a difference very, very quickly. And then the transformation expands from there. But I mean, I could go on all day about it, but I mean, I think that gives you a little bit of a summary. I like to kind of warm things up a little bit. And then, of course, marrying now breath work with the experiential music as well. I mean, I just love how music, because I'm a music guy, and I love to perform. And I just love that two of my favorite things have now come together into a very powerful way to create transformation and a beautiful experience for people.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the science behind it is so important, right? I mean, a lot of people have kind of stayed away from breath work. I mean, we breathe every single day, every moment of the day, but it has always been kind of like this, well, not always, but this odd, weird thing, or energy work is like kind of woo-woo and out there. And now we do have the science to back it. So, which is incredible. And I think if people really get to understand what is actually physically, emotionally, physiologically happening in their body, they have more power behind that. Not just going in somewhere, just breathing, and then, great. But actually see the energy, the change in the body, and what is possible just by that one breath. And I've been playing with that just one breath the last couple of days, and it literally can be that one breath, really. It's just taking that one big deep breath, and it's one breath at a time. And I've been posting about one breath, and someone had reached out and it's like, yeah, everybody's talking about 4 breaths and this breath and that breath, and literally it's just one breath, that one breath at a time. So I love the science behind it and opening up to that point. I think it's great.
Yeah. agree. I am very into the science of all of it. And I've been so just I, I don't know the right word to say, but ever since a child, I've been just so immersed in the science of the human body and what it truly can do. I mean, it is just absolute miracles can happen by simply breathing. And I think something with breath that's important to remember is yes, we do it every day. We have to do it, but so many of us forget to do it and forget the importance behind really doing it intentionally. And I think that's why something like One Breath Unity and just peeling back all the layers and getting to the core of the messaging is so powerful. And that's, I think, what's really going to be very evident on this day that's coming up in November. And I honestly cannot wait. Like I have chills just thinking about it. I'm so very excited to be part of it. And honestly, truly grateful for all the work that we have been able to do together up to this point and that we'll continue to do together. As you all are hearing this episode, we have recently launched the website for the event. We have all sorts of communication on the back end that the whole team has been working on, and it's only going to flow into a really incredible experience day of. And so I'm just so excited to bring all of this to
And
everyone.
I'm like tingling and I could just feel it as you're speaking. Because actually, I mean, look at where we're at right now, all the little parts behind it and all the thought behind it and all the time behind it. It's not just showing up really, and just the collaboration between all of us and how easy it's been. It's been just so fun to watch.
So I would actually like to hear a little summary of how this came to be. I mean, I know that you both are founders of this movement and it has obviously evolved into what it is now, but how did that conversation start between the two of you?
You want to say your version of how that started,
You
Brian?
sure. I mean, Candace and I have been connected for some time, and we were just very aligned on many things. And had the opportunity for her to come visit my home last summer, which was amazing. And so we've been thinking about and sort of putting an intention out there to do something together. And Candace reached out to me one day, and she goes, "I just want to share something with you." And she told me about this download that she received. And as she was speaking, my body was like, there was goosebumps, and it just, because everything she was saying was just like, wow, so beautiful. And the scope of it was incredible. But this came to her, very clearly. And, from that point forward, things just evolved very quickly. But Candace, you'll need to take it.
Yeah,
Before
I know.
that point, then, yeah.
It's always interesting to see the other side because, we had spoken over time, right? So that, yeah, it'd be great to do something together, but it just wasn't quite aligned. And I think Brian, at maybe the end of last year, he said 2024 aligned, question mark, exclamation, question mark. And I'm like, yes. And then kind of the year went by a little bit, but kind of been watching both of us grow in our own fields and our own practices in alignment along the way. And then Steve, which I will share a little bit how that came about too. I kind of watched him and where he was at. And then there was this point where I saw Steve, and he's a production manager for the whole event. I saw him start to come back to life. He had had a loss, a real dear friend of ours had passed away, and I could just see he was just not in quite the right space. I wasn't quite in the right space. Brian, all the little parts weren't together yet. And then one day I was at the beach doing breath work with veterans, and I'd had some little nags. I had little just nags about, okay, you got to do something now. And I was on the beach, and I was like, I'd actually done a past life regression. Jesus is one of my guides. I got given a vision of a watch. It was gold, and the time was 11:11, and the words, "It's time." So while I'm with these veterans on the beach, I'm like, oh, the 11:11 is to bring breath to veterans, and it needs to be on 11:11, which kind of didn't quite work out. But I was shown that it needed to be a massive impact in our community and to travel far and beyond. And I was shown Steve, I was shown Brian, and it was very clear I needed to get hold of them. And I was nervous because as soon as I knew, I contacted Steve because we were on tour together. He's incredible at what he does, and I knew it was going to happen. So I said to him I'd call him, and the time kind of went, and then I didn't do it physically myself. My body went to my phone, picked it up, called him. I'm like, oh, told him my vision. He's like, let's do it. I'm like, I got to speak to Brian. Spoke to Brian at that time, and he, like you said, goosebumps all over. He's like, let's do it. I'm like, okay, guess it's happening. And then you brought it to life for us in the technical world, and yeah, that's basically it's happening if we want it to or not, and that's it. Just it's exciting, and when God gives you something bigger than you, it can be terrifying, but I just know what we've got is special, and here we are speaking about it and about to make it happen.
Absolutely. And honestly, that's something that Candace and I, we were texting earlier and talking about how scary it can feel when something that you know is so right for you that is happening, right? It's the train is moving, there is no turning back. And that feeling of momentum where it's essentially out of your control at that point, it can feel a little bit daunting. But then there's this moment of like surrender, which I know is something that you both teach a lot in your practices with your clients and something that everyone will experience at this event. But that moment of surrender can just be so sweet, you know?
You got no choice. You just kicked off the cliff.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
it's so true. And but it's interesting when those moments come up, how sometimes the fear arises and it's an instant like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then, it's so nice when you're able to just overcome that initial resistance. And as you said, just kind of surrender into this. And like, there's a higher order of things happening that are unfolding. So let me just jump into the river and go with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to try and swim up the river on this one. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, oh, too late.
Yeah, you absolutely can. And honestly, so if
Yes.
you guys aren't already familiar with Candace and her Zole experiences, I mean, she's been doing something sort of like this, and this is just increasing the platform, increasing the what you see. And I know, Brian, you do the same with your rewire work. And so this is just such a fantastic way to come together, collaborate, and make it sort of like 10x the experience and the amount of people that can be there to experience.
That was one big thing which I actually just forgot until this moment. It was clear that the divine masculine, divine feminine come together. And with me doing female retreats, and I know, Brian, that you do both, but a lot of men retreats too. And we need to have this balance and this connection that's just an organic, beautiful, natural state, not only external, but actually within us, balancing those two, masculine and feminine within. So that was actually the big, like, God's like, bring the men and women together. This is the time. Let's go. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big part.
I think people forget how important it is to have that yin and yang, that balance of the masculine, the feminine. You lean too hard on one side of it, and then you either get into inaction or you're taking too much action and it's not aligned. So yeah, finding that sort of harmony between the two. So that actually leads me to, I wanted to ask each of you separately, because everybody has their own perceptions about everything they're experiencing. What is the vision that you see for One Breath Unity, right? Like, let's say this event, it's just ended, it's the next day, and you're recapping. How is that for you?
You want to go?
Sure. So interestingly for me, I love that. Excuse me, I love that question. It's something I've reflected on before in other retreats, and really, as I described a little bit about the power of breath, and it's literally changed my life. Breath work has literally changed my life and healed me so much. There is a magic that is created when there's a group of people in a safe container, which is what we will be building and creating, where people can come together. That's the unity part of the breath. There is a coherence that happens when there's that energy that comes together, and people, this might sound a little bit woo-woo, but it's actually science as well. And When people come together and create that container, it's an exponential factor that happens where people's experiences are accelerated. It's almost there's permission to go even deeper into the experience. And so I really want and envision that being that feeling afterward the event where we brought people together. We created the safe container. We curated this beautiful sensory journey where people can really step outside of themselves and see what's possible. So that's really for me, just that feeling of people coming together. And, there's always people at the end of retreats will come up and, tears and like I've with breath work, it's so interesting. Like there's one lady at a recent retreat who was a Chopra instructor and trained with Deepak in California and did for many years. She'd never done breath work. And it just exploded what she had worked on in her entire, like the last 15 years. And so when people come together in that container, is that feeling that when you look around and it's like, wow, that's the beauty of it. So that's sort of for me, that feeling and my intention.
Yeah, I love it. Can you feel like you're there right now, Sarah?
Yes. I just
You
can't wait
you
to
sold
feel
me.
it.
I'm there. Yeah. I second all that. And Brian and I spoke recently on his podcast also is, bringing space in the physical body. So having that safe container to really just surrender to that space and see the possibility. But for me also just the ripple effect of not only the container and the people that are being affected there, it really is how can we elevate the whole planet? Because energetically, we are so powerful. And what is happening on this planet right now, and the frequency shifts, and we all hear about 5D, 6D, and the high vibrational frequencies, it's very evident it is here now. So the physical body is having to catch up. So we are there energetically, but it's all these old traumas, these mindsets, these patterns that are stuck inside the body, the system, the muscle. Excuse me, being a massage therapist for 22 years, that's what kind of got me on this journey and this fascination about a physical pain as an end result. And where did it come from? Where is it like to follow that pain to where it originated? And sometimes it's not even from this lifetime. And we're literally getting to shed lifetimes beyond this lifetime of energy to live in this beautiful vibration of love. And it does take work, and it does take feeling safe and vulnerable and seeing people around you also experiencing it. And it does elevate having more. I don't know where I heard it years ago, but if you're sitting by yourself, you're emitting about 150 units of energy. When you're in prayer, it's like 1,500. But when you're in an event like this, and we want to get 1,111 people there, just saying, everyone, make sure you tell your friends. When you've got that amount of people all in sync and with an intention of healing and feeling that love, miracles happen immediately. And again, how is that going to affect not only their own life, their children when they go home, their love, like just the visual of us sending that love out to the planet, to the leaders, to really elevate all of it. So I have already envisioned us celebrating afterwards, how it feels. I've visualized it a million times already. So can't wait. And I think just so beautiful that we can actually be in this moment in time being chosen. I really believe that we are chosen to do this work. This is not a light job to take on. It's a lot of responsibility, but I mean, how amazing to be a facilitator right now at this moment in time. So yeah, amazing.
I agree with you. And I love how you said, like, there's a very clear thing happening in the world right now where there's this awareness and this sort of obvious nature of people being more aware of their energies and what they're putting out to the world, but our physical bodies aren't necessarily there yet. There's still so much obesity, so much disease happening. And so to find this place where we can come together and allow our energy to help heal our physical is like, it's amazing. We're going to feel like we're flying like after this
Yep.
event.
Yeah. I mean, also, I mean, having multiple breathing sessions with Brian and
Mhm.
myself, and the alignment, and, you know, and the music part and the visual part. I mean, it's a full, beautiful transformation that even if you're just sitting there, you're going to experience transformation.
Oh, 100%. So that leads me to who is like this event really for? Because obviously, I mean, like you said, you were speaking with someone who's been practicing for years and had never really integrated breath work into it. So what is this event like? Who's going to benefit from this?
I, I I think anyone would benefit from this. Typically, I would think that people are just who might be looking for something more. And you've both mentioned this, which is really fascinating because there is sort of an awakening happening. We do have access to those higher frequencies and healing. And as Candace even alluded to, things can happen instantly when you're in those states. So I think people are curious. People are starting to be open to new possibilities. This event will be about like-minded people coming together for positive change. It will be a community. And so I think it's just a wonderful way to get together with other people who are on a similar path, and we all have our own story.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's that unity piece through the breath. And I just feel that anybody who is looking to expand, who just wants to a little bit more peace in their life, or maybe to expand their awareness a little bit more into what does 5D mean, and what does it mean to be in the heart rather than up here in our heads most of the time, trying to problem solve or stuck in a loop of fear, shame, and guilt. So really just expanding consciousness, getting together for a great experience with like-minded people.
Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful. And also, you know, there's so many. I mean, breath is a buzzword right now, right? I mean, it's great. It's coming up, it's seeing, but there's a lot of videos out there that can be extremely frightening for somebody that'll probably put them off. And I think it's great. You can have emotional releases, you can have all that, and it's all good, and everyone does their own thing. But it's for anybody, and also just having all the sound and the visuals and everything, it's a gentle approach, as well as it's going to take some work.
Mhm.
So it can be for the absolute beginner, and it can also be for somebody who's done it 1,000 times as well, because you're all going to be in a different space and your different time and with different people. So just the container that we're holding, anybody, of course, is welcome, and veterans and first responders are our, that's who we want to serve over this period of time. It's in between Veterans Day and Thanksgiving. So, to really be able to help somebody also in extreme pain or trauma, but definitely people that are waking up and we're like, okay, what else is there right now? And let's do it. Southwest
Mhm.
Florida, particularly, we had that massive hurricane. So there's still a lot of pain here, and there's that feeling of still people are struggling, and it's been 2 years already. So it's a perfect place to host it. And the Luminary Hotel, you couldn't have a better name of a hotel to host it at. So yeah, just looking forward to just getting the word out there.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited for it. So in addition to the breath work, you guys mentioned some music. What are some of the other experiences that are happening during this day?
So for me, excuse me, I don't know why I got something in my throat today, but I will be doing something called a future visualization alignment. So talking about holding that container, I've still been playing with, and I'm still getting downloads as I go for that specific part, but to really get the fight flight responses out of the physical body of something that you're desiring in your future. So we're going to really open up the space, look at what's possible, see the science behind the breath, but then go into, okay, now we have this empty space, this empty container. What do you want to put in it? And we can have all these beautiful things that we desire and want, but there could be some space in your body that's like, hell no, the last time I went there, it hurt. So I'm going to do an alignment, which we will clear out these fight flight responses, neutralize them. and then align to that future version. And I will do something called empty force qigong. It's just a 15-minute practice, and it is basically creating that physical container. So it's kind of using the physical body to visualize that container being created. So I guess that's what I'm doing as I'm speaking. It's coming out. But my first part is the ultimate breathing experience. And, Brian and I have been sharing that and teaching that. And I feel like I took it away from you a little bit, Brian, actually, after speaking today. And, I know you do an incredible job with your breath work too. So that's my part. And then we have Ray Higdon, who is... he's incredible. He's had major transformation in his life and done all the holistic work, the energy work, breath work. But what really shifted his life is when he gave his life to Jesus. And he's going to share his story. And I think that's really powerful to open up that space for people too, because there's so much more to energy and breath work and just that connection to God. And that's another thing to align around, is a lot of people have a negative response around the word God or Jesus, and it's just literally love. So if we can clear out all the noise around that and have that deeper connection internally, then all things are possible.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. And, just to add to that, I mean, a lot of what Candace said will be very similar with me as well, in my masculine approach with breath work, which we have a little bit different, which is beautiful mix. A lot of the, as I mentioned, I'll be talking a little bit about mindfulness, but throughout that, I love the experiential piece. Sarah, you were mentioning how people don't breathe, and everyone's like, well, of course I'm breathing, but 22,000 breaths a day, people will often not even take one conscious breath throughout the day. So I will be doing some kind of shorter informal breathwork practices that are very, very powerful for people to take away, that they can use just to reset in a moment when they're feeling anxious. And so starting slow and then moving into my deeper practice later in the afternoon, which will be based in holotropic breath work. And that will be sort of married with heart coherence. So as Candace was also alluding to earlier, that group, the feeling of the people together is a coherence. And we can create that coherence in our own bodies by opening the heart center and relaxing the brain in an even higher state of consciousness, but not in the monkey mind kind of way, but in a very centered way through the heart, with a whole group of people together in that state. It can be absolutely magic.
So good.
Yeah, so good. I can't wait. And honestly, I resonate with how much more impactful it can feel to be in a space with other people, whether it's 1,111 other people, or I guess 1,110 other people. I'll be the
No, don't add
or
an extra
whether,
one there.
it's like three of us in a room. But I do find that just humans in general, we have such busy brains, and it's difficult to shut them off, especially if you don't have the practices and the knowledge of how to not necessarily shut them off, but how to quiet the noise and really listen to just your core. Listen to the breath, utilize the breath. Those things are difficult to do on your own. And coming together in this kind of space. I mean, I've experienced Candace's breath work just one other time before. So I'm super excited to experience that again, plus you, Brian, plus Ray, plus all of our musicians and all of the immersion that's going to be happening, because I just know that it's just like my heart's just going to crack open and all of this beautiful stuff is just going to be flooding in.
Yes.
And I just can't wait for other people to experience that. I want to also touch on, Candace, you mentioned earlier how when you got this download, this vision for One Breath Unity, you were doing breath work on the beach with veterans. And so I know that that's a foundational part of this journey, this movement that we're all creating together. And so what is sort of the vision you see of the healing that can happen for communities such as veterans and first responders?
Just when I was on tour with Chi Revolution back in the day, we also would offer veterans and first responders, free admission. And we would see people coming in wheelchairs and walking, like not even walking. And by the end of the 3 days, literally walking out of the event. So I've seen it firsthand. And I know Joe Dispenza, Brian, you've been to his work too. And it literally, the body is that magical. If it's in a state that it is in the coherence and it is in that healing vibration, that is where miracles happen. And I've seen it over and over again. I think I was on 15 tours that year, and it was probably the most just impactful year of my life. I mean, I've had so many impactful parts of my life, but to be part of something so magnificent and all the connections along the way, and just watching people like literally transform in front of your face. To me, there's nothing more of a blessing to be able to be part of that and see it in action. And I work with people one-on-one, and I see it every day, one person. But when you're in a group like that, and especially the trauma, the PTSD, the fight flight responses that are so triggered, when you can really support the body getting clear of that, that to me is just priceless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want to ask the both of you, what is something like someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, well, this is all well and good. Like, I would love to be in that state of being, that state of mind where I am just all in for this kind of thing. But what about someone who's feeling, I'm a little fearful of showing up and being in a room with 1,000 people and being vulnerable and in that kind of state? What is something you have to, say to them?
Get over
Yeah.
it. No, I'm just taking, just teasing. Go ahead, Brian.
No, that is a great question, because people do. We like to do what's known. The familiar is where we find our comfort, but all growth is outside of the comfort zone, and so I think it's really important for people to stretch a little bit beyond that and trust themselves, and courage is that leaping off point for all of us to get into those higher realms of consciousness. So this is as we've mentioned a few times, a safe place where people can come and be vulnerable and open. That's the environment that we're creating here, and we want to make this fun and entertaining as well. So
Yeah,
it's something different. People are used to doing the same things, and so on this particular Saturday, come out to this event, be with some great people, and go a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but feel guided and safe in that process.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I mean, Brian and I spoke earlier before too. It's like it can be fun. Like, transformation doesn't have to be this horrible. I mean, you're going to transform if you like it or not, or you're going to stay stuck if you like it or not. So we're going to have music. It's going to be loving. It's going to be supportive. It's going to be kind. And it is a beautiful space. And if you're uncomfortable, there's space to go outside, and the river's right there. If you are uncomfortable and you feel stuck and you feel, big thing for me is if you research, and I looked today again, and I think it was 95 million searches for the term lost and disconnected. That is my biggest why and drive right now, because we're lost and disconnected, not only with ourselves, with God, with each other. It's all over the place. And there is a big calling. And obviously the calling is here in this space, in this time. And we didn't call this on our own. The community has called this together. There's something beyond us that is actually calling this together. So if you have any interest or, is this for me? Don't be afraid and just come play with us. I'm not that scary. We're not that scary.
No, and there's so much freedom on the other side of feeling just a hint of uncomfort, that discomfort. And I think about this a lot, especially when I have conversations with people that say, oh, I'm feeling a little stuck, or, oh, yeah, that sounds great and all, but, and then they're giving me a reason that's from fear, judgment, or sabotage or something. But it all just starts with one decision, right? And in this case, with one breath,
With
like
one
show
breath,
up
yep.
and do the one thing that, I mean, you have full control over showing up and breathing with intention, and the butterfly effect that can happen. I mean, there is no limit, right? It's not sky's the limit. There is no limit. And so I think that's just what's so So powerful. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I am so truly grateful to be partnered with everyone in this journey. Like to be able to showcase my skills and show up in a way that feels just so juicy and beautiful to me, but is enhancing what you guys are doing all the same, is just like, I couldn't ask for anything better.
So that's what I was going to say too, on like your side of the story, right? Like, how does it feel to be, creating something like that with us?
Amazing. I mean,
And
absolutely amazing. This is my dream scenario of clients I get to work with. People that know what they want, aren't afraid to do things that are a little outside of the comfort zone, right? Stepping into the unknown, doing something big and grand while also keeping it incredibly intimate and personal. Like that duality is something that I just find so beautiful, and I'm very grateful, and I cannot wait to experience this day. And I mean, we talked about November, but you guys
yeah.
just keep following this journey because we'll be in Jamaica next. So
Yeah. So
there's
from
that.
one breath to one love, baby.
Yes.
That's right. So One Breath Unity happening November 23rd at the Luminary Hotel in Fort Myers, Florida. I'll put all the details in the show notes. Is there anything that the two of you would like to share as we wrap up today?
I think also sharing the Jamaica event too, for sure. We can talk about that to another time, but Jamaica is going to be just a follow-up of this, just to be in that vibration, that frequency on that beautiful property in Treasure Beach. It's, that would be great to share too. But other than that, also so honored that you all said yes to the calling. I mean, I couldn't do it on my own and I wouldn't want to. And I'm just so, so, so grateful.
Grateful for you both. All right, you guys, until next episode, hope you enjoyed. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.